Welcome to the Stormsurf Video Surf Forecast for Sunday, December 1st. Looking at the current significant wave height chart for the North Pacific, there are no systems of particular interest at this point in time. Appears to be high pressure off the U.S. West Coast, some sort of fetch trying to develop in the northern Gulf. Appears to be mainly high pressure induced easterly trades and resulting seas from that. And then something trying to get going in the dateline region, but nothing of any particular interest. First, we'll examine the jet stream chart. These are winds up about 30,000 feet, 250 millibar level. Decent flow coming off Japan, winds in the 150 knot range, making it to the dateline, and then falling into a bit of a trough here. But then some strange things happen. Big ridge and another cutoff trough off the U.S. West Coast. So the overall flow is doing something along the lines of this. And notice also there's a bit of a split coming off the jet up into the Bering Sea and then rejoining the main flow just off the British Columbia coast. The net result of this sort of a split in the jet is less energy than you'd normally want, especially falling into this trough, and that sort of hampers storm development. Let's put this into motion and see what evolves over the next bit of time. Slight bit of a trough, again trying to get going here north of Hawaii. This is on Monday night, but also notice again, energy peeling off the main flow, continuing to go up into the Bering Sea, and then just pretty much a mess anywhere east of about north of Hawaii. Continuing in motion, that trough tries to develop more, but again, the peel-off function here going up into the Bering Sea. This is into Tuesday night. Wednesday, a little bit better organization in the trough here into Thursday, but not particularly strong winds feeding into it. Still, a little bit of a trough here, again north of Hawaii. And basically that same pattern almost holds, and then you get into next weekend, and then it looks like an even more split jet stream set up, so that would put high pressure in here, perhaps. Bit of a trough there too. It's very mixed kind of situation, but oh, there you go. You're into a week out, definitely split jet, not a whole lot going on. This sort of a trough thing going on over the U.S. West Coast, but nothing real conducive to storm development. Looking down at the surface, at surface level wind, surface level pressure, pretty much what we saw on the significant wave height. That is wave height chart. That is high pressure, 1032 millibar high off the U.S. West Coast. Currently making a light offshore flow. A little bit of a low trying to get organized here over British Columbia. Another little low trying to form in that trough near the dateline, and pretty much that's it. A light pattern everywhere else. And notice winds and all this at 30 knots there, maybe 20, 25 knots in pockets. A little bit of 30 knot winds in the dateline low, and that's about it. Let's put this into motion. You notice the dateline low for that was on Sunday night, a little pocket of 45 knot winds, but then pretty quickly, it's still hanging 35, 40 knots even into Monday, and pushing decently down to Hawaii, a little bit too far south for the U.S. West Coast, and roll that out, and then it pretty much starts lifting north by Tuesday night, and it's all over. Let's go back a little bit now. Also notice this system, there's a low up in the Gulf of Alaska on Sunday. It starts falling south along with high pressure off the U.S. West Coast. Creates a bit of a fetch that's falling south into Monday night. And Tuesday, the low is over the southern Sierra. High pressure, 1036 millibar high off of Canada. You have a good bit of 25 knot fetch off the U.S., mainly California there. Continues into Wednesday and then starts petering out. That's good for wind swell, but that's about it. Continuing on our tour, we see another low trying to form in that same trough area north of Hawaii, but this one's lifting north real fast, doesn't get any traction. Got a bit of a cutoff low that then again tries to form on the dateline. We're into almost Saturday morning now. Fetch pretty much all aimed at Japan, nothing wrapping around aimed at Hawaii or anywhere else. A little bit of fetch here, but that's only 15 knots aimed at California. Roll this out, we're into well into the weekend. Again, this low, all the fetch is aimed west, nothing even at the islands, and not a whole lot going on in the Gulf either. And yet another low, we're into 180 hours out, we're into late Sunday, a low over the Kuril Islands, heading north, ridge, split jet stream, nothing's really going to happen. There just isn't a whole lot of energy, both in the upper level, certainly not in the upper levels of the atmosphere, and not a whole lot as a result down at the surface. So we'll take a look at what that means in terms of swell production for the North Pacific. Starting on Sunday, again, the features we talked about before, we'll put this into motion. A little bit of fetch here, but mainly the big focus is this low on the date line. We're into Monday. Actually, let's roll it back a little bit. Yeah, barely 22-foot seas, aimed reasonably well at Hawaii. Let's take a look at the Great Circle tracks. That's 319 degrees, not horrendous, so it looks the energy is more cutting this way than pushing down. But we'll roll this out here a little bit more. You get 20, oh, there we go, 26-foot seas. Again, 328 degree, a little less than that, 325. We'll just sort of put that in motion. You get a bit of a push south, so that's good for some swell for Hawaii, probably 14, maybe 15 seconds. And then it starts easing east and fading. That might even actually provide a little bit of energy. We'll roll this back a little bit. Yeah, see, look at the way the energy is directed. 286 degrees relative to Northern California, and even a bit south of that. And we could even go and take a look at Southern California, see if this means anything for there. We're talking 295, about 292 degrees. Yeah, to maybe 290 degrees. That'll sneak in the north swell window around Point Conception there into some exposed breaks in Southern California. But we're talking really minimal size and about 4 days out, so maybe for the weekend. Anyway, continue rolling this out. Really nothing happens. You got the wind swell thing going on off of Cape Mendocino here. Put that back, but we're talking, what, 12-foot seas? Not even that. 10-foot seas. And then we're into Thursday, Friday, just nothing going on. And then that cutoff low forms again on the date line. You've got 20, 22, 24-foot seas or so, but again, all aim more towards Japan than anywhere. And that's it. We're done. So really, the highlight looks like Hawaii is going to get some little swell from the first date line gale. And oops, we're back a week now. Dateline gale, and that's pretty much it. A little bit of wind swell for the U.S. West Coast. Here we go. We'll roll that one more time. There's the Hawaii activity, and at the same time, wind swell for California, and that's pretty much it. So let's go try to understand why the jet stream is so weak, and the first thing you notice is rather positive numbers in the Southern Oscillation Index. It hasn't been updated since the 24th of November. Occasionally the program that runs these numbers gets hung up, and then the Australian government meteorology society goes and has to go kick the computer, and it starts waking up. So that's probably what's going on there, but the trend still is basically positive numbers, real positive. The average is up to 2.46. That was as of the 24th of November, and it's probably considerably above that mark by now. And the 90-day average, 2.97, and again, probably in the upper 3 or maybe even 4 by now. So clearly there's no you want to see negative numbers. That suggests the active phase of the MJO. That imparts energy to the jet stream, and then that helps fuel storms down at the surface. But that's clearly not what's going on. A quick look at winds. These are wind anomalies. West Pacific, there's Australia, Philippines, China. Easterly anomalies over the maritime continent. That's another sign of the inactive phase of the MJO. Neutral anomalies on the dateline, and then pretty much neutral the whole way from south of Hawaii to Central America. Let's take a look a week out, see what we have. Again, even stronger easterly anomalies by the 9th of December, so more of the inactive phase of the MJO. So this model is a dynamic model, and this is the output from the dynamic model. And even easterly anomalies growing south of Hawaii and some even towards Central America. So this model suggests the inactive phase of the MJO is to hold for the next week. So here's where things get real interesting. This is the model, looks out about 2 weeks. This is a statistical model. It shows basically nothing. Dead, neutral, neither inactive nor active phase of the MJO. And this model actually for the past week or more has been suggesting the active phase of the MJO would take over about 5 days out and continue. But now it's just changed as of today, neutral anomalies. But looking at the dynamic model, as expected, this suggests the inactive phase 5 days out on the date line, almost 2 weeks out, and holding. The little bit of silver lining in the cloud here is the active phase of the MJO is building in the Indian Ocean, supposed to be easing east, but that's 2 weeks and it's still not even supposed to be in the West Pacific 2 weeks out. So it kind of looks like 2 more weeks of misery per this model. The upper level jet stream model again suggests the same sort of pattern. This is suggests a dry pattern, inactive phase of the MJO over the West Pacific, and now we're into the 11th of December here, the 21st of December, and the inactive phase really isn't washed out and into Central America by Christmas time. At the same time, the inactive phase supposedly is to get a weak foothold about later part of December, easing slowly east and pretty much still in control by the 10th of January. So that's something to look forward to, but you don't really see anything suggestive of support for storm development until the 21st, 26th of December sort of time frame. So it looks like my guess is that the inactive phase is going to come into control and probably will hang out for the next 3 weeks, better part of 3 weeks. Here's the chart of the 30-day running average of the Southern Oscillation Index. You can see back, we've been positive for a good long run into July of last year. We thought we had a little El Nino going, but then the trend from about July into July of this year has been steadily upward. We've just gone through a couple of nice little spurts that maybe suggested that the active phase of the MJO was trying to get going with these, dips back into negative numbers, but now we're in the beginning still of a very steep positive climb, suggesting that the inactive phase is in control, and all this chart does is pretty much confirm that as well. Next, we'll look at surface level ocean temperature anomalies. So there's a bit of good news here. Not great, but not bad. Not like what we've seen in the other forecast charts. And that is, there's a reasonable amount of warm water over this portion of the equatorial Pacific. This is the El Nino, La Nina area. When you're into El Nino, you see water temperatures being above normal. That is these shades of orange, yellow, and red. If it was La Nina, you'd be into dark blues, colder than water normal temperatures. The general pattern has been slight warming, at least neutral, if nothing else. Actually, over all the summer, there was this cold eddy flow that was running along here. That died out in early October. We've seen a little bit of warming and then a little bit more cool water build up off Peru and sort of vent off over this way. But as of right now, this is the warmest it's been pretty much all this year, which is good news. The only cool patch is right here, and it's barely cool, and even that's losing a little bit of steam with, little pockets of warm water here, down here, and even the temperatures off Peru, which were really cold for most of the summer, have warmed considerably. So this is typical of a neutral, pretty much what you call neutral to barely warm, but we'll call it neutral. The other thing is this: you get high pressure that's off the U.S. West Coast, and you can see this sign of the north winds coming along California and then turning to trades sweeping under Hawaii. So we've been monitoring this patch of cooler upwelling water. Not particularly cold, actually way better than it's been all year, other than in late October. This patch of warm water actually impacted the coast in Northern California. Water temperatures rose significantly, but now we're back down into the 53 water temperature for the San Francisco area, and a bit of upwelling pattern here, but not too horrible. The other thing, off Africa, generally warm temperatures here. This sometimes acts as a mirror image of what's going on over here, and is almost a precursor sometimes to what's going on here. But they're both pretty much in sync, lightly warm, neutral, if anything. Finally, let's take a look at subsurface water temperatures on the equator, to north to south, running from the Philippines basically over into Central America. And particularly we want to see the anomalies. That's right here. There's this warm pocket that's developed. It's been here. We've been following it for a month or two now, 2 degrees above normal. It basically was a result of a weak westerly wind burst blowing in the West Pacific in association with the active phase of the MJO back in it was like early October. It basically created a pocket of warm water that's pushing this way. NOAA's calling it a Kelvin wave. That's good. The idea, though, is you want to see it continuing to progress east. We have not seen that. We have basically it's been stalled at about 145. It actually looks to have retrograded a little bit here in the most recent run of this image. But the other point is there's a bunch of, see these Alexas, these are buoys, and they have sensors down at depth, and so they sort of give you a hint of what's going on. But notice all the buoys here are down and out, so it's kind of a guess as to how far east this Kelvin wave has actually progressed. Odds are it's actually probably moved further along than this image depicts. The idea would be that it moves the whole way into Central America, hits the coast, gurgles to the surface, and then heads back on the surface, creating warm waters off of Central America. Warm waters off of Central America in turn fuel the jet stream, impart energy to the jet stream, which then helps goose up the storm track a little bit. So we're hoping that somewhere between the forecast active phase of the MJO in late December and this Kelvin wave hitting the coast at that same time, that will help add a little bit more energy and give us a little more productive storm track for the latter part of January, February, March time frame. Certainly not a guarantee, more wishful thinking than anything, but it's something to look forward to. And finally, the sea surface temperature anomaly forecast from the CFS version 2 model. This is the Nino 3.4 area, which is the main area used for monitoring the formation of El Nino or La Nina. As of right now, we're barely warm, as you see here, and as the model runs out, it basically says it's going to hang in the neutral territory pretty much into January, February, and then maybe about March we'll get some slow warming up to maybe a half a degree, and that's by the summertime. A consensus of other models basically are showing the same thing. There's a little bit of variation between just a little bit warm and a little bit more warm, but certainly nothing that suggests a strong El Nino, but a little bit of warming, and that would be good. Anything that might not help us this winter, but by next summer and the winter of what would be 2014, 2015, maybe a much more productive pattern would be in store. So something to look forward to, but again, these models are pretty unreliable this far out into the future, but something to monitor and something to hopefully get us over the really slack storm pattern that's taken hold so far this winter. So that's it for this week. That's the forecast. Not a whole lot going on in short, and not a whole lot going on even in the midterm, but maybe in the February time frame we'll get a little bit more activity. Certainly seasonally, that's when you see it, January, February. So that's the best hope for Hawaii and California. Yeah, that's it for now. We'll do this again next week. Thanks for watching. Appreciate it.